Welcome back, friends. It's time for the E3 episode of Degreelessness, and I'm sure it will come as no surprise to any of you that it's quite the mixed fucking bag, and that's being generous. I'm your host, Shanghai Pete, the people's champion, high-tech lowlife, and your good buddy in the mix. Yes, the time for the obscenity of E3 is upon us once again, and once again, it's the same old story. We know that they've long abandoned any pretense that it's anything other than ads trying to convince you to spend money on games that aren't even finished yet. And we also know that at this point in our dark timeline, they've done away with booth babes as well as the archaic concept of fun and replaced all that with performative virtue signaling and games that only pretend to be fun for just long enough to hook you on their monetization scheme. Such an exciting time, I know. And to us, perhaps, that sounds abhorrent, but for everyone else, apparently it's a small price to pay for expanding the profit margins of companies like EA and Activision. Just fantastic stuff all around, guys. Just really a ball is being had by all. And now here's about 15 minutes of me essentially just reading a list of games that we can look forward to being disappointed by in a few months. Sounds awesome, right? Let's get deep inside. First up on the chopping block tonight is Nintendo. Nintendo is basically the Joker of the games industry. Their motivations are incoherent at best, and their behavior inimical to any attempts to predict it. Do they just want to watch the industry burn, or do they want to save it? Do they want to turn a profit, or do they want to put out a shovelware platform that's impossible to market even to people who may want to buy it? There's just simply no way to know. Nintendo is a fucking cipher. They were in 1985, and they still are now. Completely immune to all forecasting and even basic understanding, you never know what you're going to get when they put out a new product. It might be something that casually revolutionizes the entire home console market, or it might be a $50 handful of cardboard. Or it may never be officially announced at all because, I don't know, fuck you maybe? They're an agent of chaos that has somehow remained wholly insusceptible to any outside or external influences, be they cultural, societal, or otherwise. Whereas Sony, another Japanese company, switches their regional button functions to align with Western expectations, Nintendo puts out shit like a plastic purple cube with a handle that plays mini discs. So whether an endeavor of theirs succeeds or fails, you always know with absolute certainty that it does so on its merit alone, and literally nothing else. And therein lies the essence of what makes Nintendo so timeless and charming. On any given day, they possess the capacity to either turn the entire gaming industry on its head, or set fire to a pile of their own money, sometimes both at the same time. You never know which it'll be. On one hand, that's great because it means Nintendo is literally incapable of being anything other than exactly who they are, Nintendo through and through. But the flip side is, of course, that it also means sometimes instead of a hugely hyped and expected announcement that practically half the world is waiting for, you get fuck all. I mean, don't get it fucked up, I will absolutely take a new Metroid game, especially one that's a side-scroller, even if it does look more like an Xbox Live Arcade game from 2013 than a mainline console release in 2021. But seriously, where the fuck's the Super Switch? Now that I think about it though, of course they didn't announce it. We all thought we were prepared for all the ways they could potentially Nintendo up the unveiling of the new system. Maybe they'll give it a shit name, or fuck up the pricing, maybe botch the marketing, or not fix the Joy-Cons, or fail to adequately upgrade the hardware specs. But in all our hubris, we, or at least I, missed the most glaring potential Nintendo move of them all. Just not saying shit. In retrospect, of course they didn't announce it. Fucking of course. What could be more quintessentially Nintendo than simply just not doing anything at all? God damn it. Now, nothing left to do but wait until they abruptly and unceremoniously tweet out all the details in the middle of the night on some random unremarkable date in the future. Fucking Nintendo. Now, let's move on to what many are pretending was the huge reveal of the show, and incidentally, is also some Nintendo shit. Sorry to say, but even though it's more or less what I was expecting, the Breath of the Wild 2 teaser just fell totally flat for me. This shit was obviously originally developed and intended to be DLC and nothing more. Like, obviously. Since it was announced, I've been wondering just how in the fuck they were gonna scrape together an entire second game out of little more than just the existing assets of the first game. At the very least, I was hoping Nintendo's E3 Direct would provide an answer, but apparently even that was too much to ask for. In fact, turns out that even a full trailer was too much to ask for, as we got hit with a mere teaser instead. Far from answering my questions, it actually made me even more concerned. I didn't see a teaser for a sequel to Breath of the Wild. I saw a disappointingly threadbare clip for what could only generously be speculated to be possibly DLC. Guys, geez, Bros, you're trying to Majora's Mask this shit, aren't you? Fucking don't do that. I want to be psyched for this game, and right now, the way you're playing things, I'm fucking not. That sucks. Y'all lost me at using the same map from Breath of the Wild. Fucking seriously? I already spent 50 hours in that place. It was dope. I enjoyed myself. It's a fun game. But I ain't going back for the length of a whole new game just because you tossed in a few floating islands and a new ability or two. Like, people that are excited for this, am I missing something? Is it supposed to be more than just Breath of the Wild 1 with a few more abilities and a couple new areas? Like, I don't know, I'm still just not seeing a justification or need for a whole new game here. I was sincerely hoping that would change at E3 because looking forward to a new Zelda game is super fun, and who the fuck wouldn't want to do that? But instead, no, I'm left with a dirty dick and disappointment. Something far too common these days, I'll admit. Next, we have Microsoft, or in other words, Starfield and Halo Infinite. Let's do the saddest part first, Starfield, obviously. Now, why is this the saddest part? Well, because Bethesda 10 years ago may have made this a good game. Because the trailer many have been waiting for was actually just a teaser with no gameplay footage. Because this shit still isn't out for over a year. Again, and don't get it fucked up, if the Bethesda that made Fallout 3, Oblivion, and Skyrim were about to drop this, I'd likely be pretty fucking into it. But the Bethesda that's resold Skyrim more times than there are numbers and made Fallout 76, to say nothing of the travesty called Elder Scrolls Blades, putting out Starfield? Nah, geez. I have practically zero reason to have any faith in their abilities. And that's a fucking bummer. As for Halo Infinite, anyone who's been watching my videos for a while likely will not be surprised by my take on this. I'll play the campaign, and I don't give a shit about the multiplayer. Which is a shame, because that's all Microsoft thought they needed to show off. And as it turns out, looks like they were right, judging from most people's reactions to it. I'm not going to pretend to know anything about Halo multiplayer, because I clearly do not, but this seems to have gone over relatively well. So, for everyone that's psyched for this, congrats, looks like it's going to be fucking dope. Cool. Alright, so that was all pretty dumb. Let's move on to the fun stuff, the stuff I actually liked. You may be surprised, as was I, at how much there was that I thought looked good. We're going to go through it, but first, my top 5 games of the show. Number 5 is Shadow Warrior 3. Y'all know I'm a sucker for a good FPS, especially ones that have more of an old school arcade feel to them, like the new Doom games. Shadow Warrior 3, if it's anything like 2, appears to be all about that shit. I can't help it. I just love big, dumb, violent, excessive shit. It's just what I'm into. The fast-paced, arcade-style combat, weapon variety, level design, over-the-top visuals, it all rules.
It all rules. All that shit rules.
Number 4 is Diablo 2. Yes, I know. Maybe it's ridiculously naive of me to even think that there's a chance this will be good, but damn if it doesn't at least look fucking awesome. From what I've heard, it's literally just redone graphics layered over the original game. If that's true, and that's a big fucking if that's true, then sign me the fuck up for that. After all, we know that the only good games Blizzard has released, or is capable of releasing anymore, over the past 5 years have been re-releases of their old games made back when they still gave a fuck about creating genuine entertainment products with intrinsic value. You ask me how excited I am for Diablo 4 on the other hand, and I'm gonna go a big rubbery one, because that's a modern Blizzard committee designed game for the shareholders first and customers last, if at all. So Diablo 2 reskinned, yes fucking please. Diablo 4 by the modern Blizzard machine, no fucking thanks. I could be wrong though, maybe 2 will suck and 4 will be great. Maybe they'll both be great. I doubt it, but we can hope. Number 3 is Tales of Arise. I've long been a fan of just JRPGs in general, but the Tales series always been a favorite. Admittedly, I think it's mostly gone downhill since Tales of Symphonia, but Fantasia, Destiny, and Eternia remain at the top of my best RPGs of all time list. A topic for another video, perhaps. Nonetheless, every time a new Tales game is announced, I hope it'll finally be the return to greatness for the series that I've been waiting for, well, basically like 20 years. Well, no, maybe 15 years. When did Symphonia come out? 04? Anyway, I guess I should probably have given up by now, but they just keep making new ones, so we'll see. Tales of Arise, please be good. Coming in number 2, we've got, Metroid Dread. Yes, it looks like a GameCube game. Yes, it's about a million years too late. Yes, I also am wondering where the fuck Prime 4 is, and yes, Nintendo's a huge pile of shit for not releasing the Prime trilogy or at least a port of the GBA Metroid collection on Switch. Where the fuck's all that at? Now, regardless, all those things are very true and quite distressing. However, that doesn't mean I'm not all the way down for a new 2D Metroid game. The last one they did for the 3DS was great, and fuck, I hope this one is too. At least it fucking better be if you're not going to give us any other Metroid shit. Finally, rounding out this list at my number 1 best game of the show is a New Blood developed joint called Gloomwood. First and foremost, if you're not familiar with New Blood, you need to check them the fuck out, especially if you prefer to play your games on a PC. Dusk is probably their best overall, but Medieval is also brilliant, and so is Ultra Kill. Ultra Kill almost makes me sick with how fast it is and how the FOV is tuned. Fucking awesome. But their new one, Gloomwood, is a thief-style game. Just look at this motherfucker. Holy shit. Now, I understand that many may not be down with retro-style graphics like these, and to a degree, I get it, especially when you look at modern games like Village and see how drop-dead those motherfuckers look. It's hard not to want other games to look that good, too. However, that kind of graphical fidelity costs a lot of fucking money, and that's money that indie devs, the only kind of devs ever willing to take a risk on a game like this, do not have. So if it means having to dial back the graphics to some retro era in order to get awesome new games and concepts like this, I'm fine with that. Just look at Medieval and Dusk, they're gorgeous. Anyway, new Thief with Guns game from New Blood, that's at the top of my list, dead fucking ass. There's a demo out for it right now on Steam, play that motherfucker. Okay, lastly tonight, let's move on to a few honorable mentions, of which there's actually quite a few. Project Warlock 2 is another check in the retro throwback FPS column. Looks super sick. I mean, look how chunky those sprites are. So awesome. Chernobylite, if I'm pronouncing that right, I don't know. No idea what the fuck this is, but it looks creepy, so sure, maybe it'll be cool. Next is Starfield. Yes, even though there's every reason to think this will be an unrepented pile of garbage, I'm far too much of a sci-fi nerd to write this one off completely. Yes, I'm a moron. I know, don't hate me, I just want it to be good. Surprising one here, Evil Dead. Looks like some RE4 crossed with Evil Within. Super fun. Stalker 2, of course. Just look at this bitch. If any of you have played the first Stalker game, you'll know why people are so hyped for this one. Back 4 Blood, of course, even though I generally don't like online-only games, I'm hoping there'll be a single-player option for this, maybe bots, some shit like that. Next up is Dying Light 2. I actually really enjoyed the first Dying Light with all its weird parkour nonsense. Thought it was pretty unique and a lot of fun. Hopefully the sequel will be more of the same. Shockingly, I haven't seen any reason to not think that, so we'll see. Atomic Heart is another creepy Russian-inspired FPS. It seems like a lot of these recently. I don't really know why that is, but as long as they continue to look dope, I'll keep looking forward to them. Unbound, this also looks super sweet, like some sort of Metroidvania, and I love those. Toss in a few unique gameplay ideas, some gorgeous art, and I'll fuck with you. Next, I really want to say 40K Chaos Gate, but there literally is nothing except this teaser, so, I mean, we're gonna have to see. Obviously, I'm in favor of any good 40K game, but you gotta at least tell me what the fucking game is about. Lastly, I do want to mention that whatever the fuck this is, Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster. Now, there's a lot to be worried about here, for sure. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there's already a font controversy, so you know what kind of territory we're in already. Now, just look at some of the sprite comparisons also. Yikes. But it does look like they're putting some serious work into these. I don't know why. I mean, sure, I welcome that, but seems weird, right? We already have a lot of these sprite updates for the GBA version, so what exactly is your angle here? And we also know how much they totally scuffed the shit out of the Chrono Trigger re-release, and God forbid they do anything like what they did for the iOS versions. Ugh. And also, why is there no Switch version? So I guess probably more reasons to be terrified than there are to be excited, but redrawn, remastered sprite versions of classic Final Fantasy games, be still my beating heart, bitch. We can only hope. Okay, that's our show. As always, thank you so much for chilling with us tonight. We love you today. We love you all the way. Oh, how fun. How exciting. I love seeing games that have potential and then watching excruciating agony as the months until their release unfold, providing more and more reasons why the games that eventually are released will be nothing like the ones you started being hyped for. E3 is such a blast, guys. Now, nothing left to do but just watch with bated breath and hope against hope. Rather a common refrain for those few of us that remain sincere fans of gaming, don't you think? Now that I've bummed you out, go play the Gloomwood demo or a ROM of Metroid Fusion while you're waiting. That'll at least be fun. And you know what else will be fun? The next episode of Degreelessness coming up next week. Who knows what kind of internet bloodsport we'll get involved with? I, for one, can't wait to find out.